Hey guys, it's Fook and I am back with another build for the Samsung Gear S3, and this time it's of the Omega Seamaster Professional. And you can see here that I have a fully working version. The only difference is that it is not a automatic movement, just because Mr. Time Maker doesn't support automatic movement. But otherwise it looks really good. I even edited the hands so that the background kind of shows through, so you can see the text beyond there, like coaxial, chronometer, and whatever on the hour hand. Um, in any case, the other thing I did also was that I took out the date dial only because Mr. Time Maker doesn't support it. So I just replaced it with an hour marker, and it works really well. So this is the end product. It looks much better in real life. And we're going to jump to the computer and I'll show you how to do that. Alright? Alright, so we are back at the computer. So let me go through the process of creating the watch with Mr. Time Maker. And we do it on the MrTimemaker.com website, which is much easier to use rather than trying to do it from the phone app. So you need to create an account and then log into that account. And from the main screen, you have this green button here that says Create the Watch. So click on Create the Watch. It's going to ask you if you want to do a Samsung Gear watch or an Android Wear. We're making this for the Samsung Gear S3, so I am going to select Samsung Gear. You can select different models, either do the S2, the regular Gear, or the S3, and we're going to do the Gear S3. So I click Next. The style that we're going to do is an analog watch. So we'll leave it at analog and click Next. And here for the background, we're going to use a custom background, which is basically our own dial. So I leave it at custom and I click Next. And this is where we can upload our custom background. And I'm going to select my Omega Seamaster Professional dial. Click Open. And you can see that it's uploaded. So it's this dark blue, iridescent blue. Looks really nice, and everything looks good, so I don't have to move it, scale it, do anything like that. Click Next. An index is for things like the hour marker and things like that, and we don't need one since we have hour markers directly on the dial, so I don't need to select different styles of index. So I'm going to leave that alone and click Next. And the next step is we can select hands that we can apply. Now, of course, you can use the built-in hands from Mr. Time Maker, and there are several styles. This one is kind of close because you can kind of see through to the background here, but this second hand is completely off. Although, of course, you do have the option to remove the second hand. But you can feel free to choose the style that works best for you. Or if you've gone through the trouble of isolating the hands from the watch face, you can just go ahead and upload them individually, which is what I'm going to do here. So we click on Upload, and you upload the hour hand, which I have prepared, the minute hand, and the second hand. There we go. And then you click Upload. And after a few seconds of uploading, you'll see your watch with the official hands that you made. And we click Next. And it asks you if you want to add subdials. Now, on a real Omega Seamaster Professional, there is a date subdial, but it doesn't look good with the default styles of Mr. Time Maker. So this is what that date would look like, and it's not the same at all. So I'm going to go ahead and just not do one and just leave it plain. So we'll skip it. If you want to add any text to the watch, you can do it here. If not, we just click Next. And lastly, you got to give it a name. So I'm going to call it Omega Seamaster. We'll call this one Blue. You must give it 2 tags. So we're going to say Classic, and we'll just say Retro, just for the heck of it. And because we are using copyrighted design elements here, I'm going to set this as private so that I don't get in trouble. So after this, you can click Create, and it'll just take a second while the app is creating your watch face. Once it's created, you'll see it as part of all of the designs that you've made, and then you can immediately use the Mr. Time Maker app on your phone to send the new watch face to your Samsung Gear S3. So that's basically how you create the watch using Mr. Time Maker after you have all of the elements created. So on my page, you can see that I have two versions of the Omega Seamaster. I'm just going to get rid of this one. So this is the new one that we made, and I have a couple of other ones that's on here as well. So how do we actually go about creating these separate elements? If I were to show you from start to scratch, it would take a very long time. So I'm going to show the basic outline. I do have a video where I made this Rolex Submariner that you can follow that does kind of go through all the steps. So I'm just going to show you very quickly, and then if you need to, you can refer to my other video to follow along. So basically what I do is I go to images.google.com, and then I simply Google the watch that I want. So in this case, it's the Omega Seamaster Professional. And I search for a watch that strikes my fancy, and it just happens to be that the first one that comes up was the one that I selected. So it's this guy right here. Okay, so you can see that this is a very good photo of the watch. So I went ahead and viewed the image and then saved as, and then worked from there. Of course, you can pick any options that you see on here that strikes your fancy and go from there, but this is the one that I worked off of, this very blue watch. Okay, after you download the picture of the watch, you can go into Photoshop and start isolating. So here's my file after I've isolated certain elements, so the dial and all the hands. Okay, some people will say that you can search for just the dial itself and use that, and you certainly can, but I have not had any luck kind of finding a very good quality image of just the dial itself. So this is what I actually ended up with. So I can remove certain elements here. They're just layers in Photoshop. And here's my dial. So I can add back in the minute hand, the hour hand, what have you, and kind of save those as individual files to upload to Mr. Time Maker. Okay, so this is after all the hard work. So you're probably wondering how you go about doing that. So let me give you a very quick rundown. So here's the image that I downloaded. And like I said, I'm not going to go from start to finish. It's just going to take a long time. But I'll give you the rough process. So first thing I do is just isolate the watch. And I start from very big to very small. So I can just crop. And at first, I don't have to be very careful because I'm going to get in really close. And that's when I can get a lot more careful. Okay. Once I have it kind of zoomed in to where I want, I'll go ahead and then isolate just one side, like say the right side, and make sure I get that just spot on, and then I crop it. I do the same for the bottom side and just kind of work my way around, and I ignore everything else, and I crop. And now I go to the left side, and I crop. And lastly, the top. And crop. So this gets me pretty much just the dial. Now, the Samsung Gear S3 has a 360 by 360 display, so we want to make sure that our dial size is at that dimension. This is very close, just downloaded from the web, but in case it isn't, you can just resize it. So what I do is I resize it. I do not link the proportion so that I can just type it in freely. So this was 361 by 354. It's pretty close, although it's a little bit off square, so I'm going to adjust it to be exactly 360 by 360. Okay. And that just stretches it so that it's a perfect circle. The next thing I do is I go to my tools here, my shape tools in Photoshop, make an ellipse, that's 360 by 360. So an ellipse that's 360 by 360 is basically just a circle, right? And you can start by just drawing it on screen, and it doesn't have to be that exact size, but you can go to the properties of that shape and then you can change it manually. So we can go 360 by 360, and then I would center that. And I'm sure that there are other ways to do this, but this is my preferred way. So I can center that shape onto my canvas, essentially. And now it's a shape on top of my background image. Okay, you can see that here. It says ellipse 1. And then I'll right click on that layer and I rasterize it, which makes it into a bitmap selection that I can then select directly. And then I use a magic wand tool with a tolerance of 0, so I just select the gray. Then I go to select and select the inverse of that. Go to my background. I'll turn this off for now, I don't need it anymore. The only reason I really did that was just to get that perfectly round shape. And like I said, if somebody's using a tablet with a pen or something else and they have a different technique to get that perfectly round center circle, that's fine. This is just my technique and I've gotten used to it and I can do it really fast. So after I've selected the 360 by 360 circle and inverted the selection, I make sure that I'm on my background layer, and I just press delete. Click OK. You know what? Before we do that, we probably should just unlock this layer so that when we delete, we get a nice transparent background. So to unlock it, you just double click on the lock and that kind of get rid of it. Okay. After that, I don't really need this shape anymore, so I can just delete it. After that, it's a matter of just duplicating this layer and starting to isolate the individual hands. So the second, the hour, the minute. The other thing that I did was to take one of these markers and replace it over this date window, just because Mr. Time Maker doesn't support this type of dial. The default style looks kind of stupid. And if you're unsure how to do that, you can follow along with my Rolex video and it'll show you. So after doing that and isolating the hands and putting them on their own individual layers, I end up with these elements. Okay. So here's the second hand, here's the minute hand. Actually, this is the hour, so I should rename this. And this one is the minute hand. So once you've isolated different elements, so here's my minute hand, and have them as layers on your Photoshop document, then what you want to do is make all of the hands center on the dial and pointing at the 12 o'clock position. That's the way that Mr. Time Maker likes it to be. So that's how you should have it set up before you upload it to the website. Once you've done all that, it's just a matter of making each layer, each individual layer visible, and then saving it as a PNG file. So I go to File, Save As, make sure that I change my file type from Photoshop Document, PSD format, to PNG, and give it a name that makes sense. So as you can see here, I have dial, hour hand, minute, and second hand. After you've done all that, you can then upload it to the site and have a new watch on your Samsung Gear S3. Good luck, guys, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave in the comments and I will do my best to answer your questions. Stay tuned for more watch videos and making custom watch faces for the Samsung Gear S3. Thanks, guys. See you later.